Nobody tells you this part about love, the moment when effort quietly turns into exhaustion. When you're still there, but you don't feel seen anymore. When you wonder how something that started with so much fire ended up feeling so cold. Most relationships don't fail loudly. They fade in silence, through unspoken needs, ignored feelings, and the slow loss of emotional connection. And the scariest part? Most people never realize what went wrong until it's already over. But what if the rules you were taught about love were incomplete or completely wrong? Stay with me, because the truth you're about to hear may change how you see love forever. Comment where you're watching from, subscribe to the channel for more truth about love and relationships. Most relationships fail long before the first argument, long before the distance, long before the breakup conversation, because people enter love without self-awareness. They don't realize that love doesn't begin with finding the right person. It begins with understanding who you are when you're alone. Many people walk into relationships carrying unexamined wounds, unmet childhood needs, and emotional patterns they mistake for personality. They confuse attachment with love, validation with intimacy, and chemistry with compatibility. So instead of choosing a partner consciously, they choose someone who feels familiar, even if that familiarity comes from chaos, inconsistency, or emotional neglect they've known before. When you don't know yourself, love becomes a coping mechanism. You look to another person to regulate your emotions, to make you feel worthy, to give you a sense of identity. And that's an impossible burden to place on anyone. Over time, this turns into pressure, disappointment, and quiet resentment. You start asking why your partner isn't making you happy anymore, without realizing you handed them a responsibility that was never theirs to carry. This is where relationships begin to crack, not because love is gone, but because expectations are misaligned with reality. Self-awareness is what allows you to recognize your triggers instead of projecting them. It's what helps you separate what your partner is actually doing from what your past is whispering in your ear. Without it, every disagreement feels personal, every silence feels like rejection, and every boundary feels like abandonment. You react instead of responding. You defend instead of listening, and slowly, the relationship becomes a battleground of unresolved emotions rather than a space of mutual growth. Philosophically, love without self-knowledge is like trying to build a house on land you've never inspected. It may look stable at first, but the foundation is uncertain. Psychological research consistently shows that emotional maturity, self-regulation, self-reflection, and accountability is a stronger predictor of relationship success than passion or shared interests. Yet most people focus on being loved, not on being emotionally prepared to love. They ask, am I enough for them? Instead of, am I aware of myself? When two people lack self-awareness, the relationship becomes reactive. When one person has it and the other doesn't, imbalance forms. But when both people are willing to look inward, take responsibility for their inner world, and communicate from clarity rather than fear, love becomes stable instead of volatile, not perfect, but resilient. So before asking why your relationships keep failing, ask what parts of yourself you've been avoiding. Because the quality of your love will never exceed the depth of your self-understanding. And the moment you stop using relationships to escape yourself, that's the moment love finally has a chance to last. Most relationships don't collapse overnight. They crumble quietly, in the spaces between conversations, in the things left unsaid, in the emotional needs that go unspoken. People often assume their partner can read their mind, that they can just sense what love looks like for them, what makes them feel safe, what makes them feel valued. And when that expectation goes unmet, small frustrations begin to accumulate. A forgotten text, a missed gesture, a casual comment taken the wrong way. These aren't isolated incidents. They are signals, tiny warnings that the emotional connection is weakening because communication has stopped being clear, intentional, and honest. We live in a culture that glorifies going with the flow, or not making a big deal out of things. But in relationships, avoidance is a slow poison. Needs that aren't expressed don't disappear. They turn into resentment, withdrawal, and silent judgment. And what's tragic is that both partners can still deeply care for each other, even love each other, while simultaneously drifting apart. Emotional intimacy doesn't survive on feelings alone. It survives on clarity, vulnerability, and the courage to articulate what matters. Without that, love becomes a guessing game where both people are constantly second guessing each other, wondering why the warmth feels distant or why the connection isn't enough. Psychologically, this happens because people fear being too much or too needy. They worry that expressing a desire, a boundary, or an expectation will push their partner away, so they stay quiet, thinking silence is safer. But the irony is that silence is often the very thing that creates distance. When emotional needs are hidden instead of shared, love becomes transactional and conditional without anyone consciously realizing it. A partner might try to fill the gap intuitively, but intuition alone cannot meet explicit needs, and over time, frustration or disappointment takes the place of affection. Philosophically, love without communication is like a bridge with missing planks. You can stand on either side and hope the other will come closer, but without effort to connect, collapse is inevitable. Relationships require ongoing dialogue, but not just surface level talk. They require conversations that illuminate inner worlds, reveal vulnerabilities, and create mutual understanding. Couples who cultivate this are not perfect. They still disagree. They still get frustrated, but they have a language for intimacy that prevents small cracks from turning into unfixable chasms. So many relationships fail not because people stop caring, but because they stop talking. Not just talking about logistics or schedules, but talking about the heart. Asking for what you need is not selfish. Explaining your emotions is not weakness. Showing your partner the interior of your soul is the only way love can thrive beyond surface attraction. If you want love to last, start by breaking the silence. Express what you need, listen without judgment, and meet each other with clarity instead of assumption. Because the conversations you avoid today may very well be the reason your love doesn't survive tomorrow. The moment you choose communication over fear, your relationship finally has a chance to become what it was always meant to be: deep, honest, and enduring. Most people don't realize that attraction is not a static force. It isn't something you achieve once and then take for granted. It's a living, breathing energy that grows or diminishes depending on how both partners engage with life and with each other. One of the biggest reasons relationships fail is that one or both people stop evolving. They stop learning, stop exploring, stop challenging themselves. Routine becomes a trap disguised as comfort. Excitement fades into predictability, and what once felt magnetic starts to feel mundane. Love doesn't die because people stop loving. It dies because growth stops. When we stop growing individually, we unconsciously stop bringing depth into the relationship. Curiosity diminishes, passion stagnates, and the conversations that once sparked connection feel empty. We forget that part of attraction is admiration, not just of appearance or success, but of resilience, vision, and emotional intelligence. When your partner stops growing, the admiration fades, and with it, the emotional and even physical attraction that feeds intimacy. Relationships are not only about shared goals or proximity, they are about the continuous evolution of two unique individuals moving together without losing themselves. Psychologically, this is tied to the principle that humans are drawn to vitality. We are wired to notice growth, resilience, and forward motion. When one partner stagnates, it triggers a subtle sense of imbalance. It's not about blame, it's about alignment. Love requires that both people continue to expand, not just for the sake of the relationship, but for themselves. The truth is, a stagnant individual in a relationship is like a boat anchored in shallow water. It may not sink immediately, but it cannot navigate the currents of life, and over time, it drifts away from the shore it once hoped to reach. Philosophically, love without growth is a mirror reflecting complacency. It shows us what we have, but not who we can become together. A thriving relationship demands curiosity, creativity, and courage to keep exploring the world and each other. Growth keeps the spark alive, fosters admiration, and creates the momentum that sustains intimacy even during challenges. So, if you want your love to last, don't just invest in the relationship, invest in yourself. Keep learning, keep evolving, and invite your partner to do the same. Because when two people grow together, attraction doesn't fade, it deepens, strengthens, and becomes the foundation of a love that can withstand time, trials, and change. Growth is not optional in love, it is essential.